What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. So today we're going to talk about something, and this is more just it's not really for educational purposes, just sharing something cool with you guys, because I think it's always awesome when you have the scientific kind of explanation or scientific data to back it up. You have a lot of studies and you have a lot of understanding of how something works, but it's really awesome when you actually get to see it in real life, like the practical application, and really see what the science dictates, right? You actually get to see it come to fruition. So what am I talking about? So I want to just start with, let's start at the beginning, okay? So I started training, check this out. I think this is really cool. I don't know, you guys are probably gonna like, no shit, Jerry, but it's cool because I'm seeing it in my own physique. When you see it in your own body, it's very cool. It's like you're in your own science experiment for 30 years, right? So I started training when I was 14 years old, right? I'm 45 years old now. So I've been training for 31 years, right? 31 years I've been training. Yeah, that's dating myself, man. 31 years. Now, out of those 31 years, I'd say probably about 28 of them. Because the last couple of years I haven't been training that hard. So 28, 7, 6, about 25 of those years, I was training very hard and pretty heavy, right? Hard and heavy. So during this time, of course, the goal was to gain as much muscle mass as humanly possible. I got up to around 273 pounds where I maxed out at. Right, so I was 21 years old and weighed 273 pounds, okay? Now, get this, at 45 years old, I weighed 208 pounds, okay? Now, here's where things start to get interesting, right? So I'm comparing myself to my biggest to where I'm at right now. So, at 21 years old, I had already gone on steroids. When I was 20, I went on my first steroid cycle. My body just kept growing and growing and growing, and I got bigger and bigger, and I took up more and more space. And when I got on the scale, you could obviously see in person when I was 270. When I got on the scale, I looked 270, right? But people are kind of surprised now when I say I'm 208 now. They're like, 208? You only look like you're 180 pounds, right? Why is that? Why is it that I used to look like my weight no matter what I was, and now I don't look like what I weigh? I really started to question, how the fuck is that possible? Because when I was 19 years old, check this out, right? 19 years old, I was 100% natty, and I weighed 205 pounds. Now, it's only a few pounds difference from where I'm at now, but I took up so much more space at 205, and I'm actually way more now, and I take up a lot less space muscle-wise. So what the fuck is going on, right? I really looked at these numbers because I sat down and said, what I did was I went through everything like I'm doing with you right now. And I was like, how is any of this fucking possible? How could I look smaller at 208 than I did at 205 when I was 19 years old? What is the difference between 45 and 19? Right? And I'm like, I spent 31 years training, 25 training hard and heavy. How the fuck is it possible that I don't at least look the same at 208 as I did at 205 when I was 19? And I kind of dug in and looked for the answers, right? And the answer was surprisingly shocking, right? It's bone density. My handwriting is terrible, especially on these fucking marker boards, but normally it's terrible. Bone density, something I never really paid attention to, something I never really cared about, something that, as we get older, obviously that's an important thing, but I wasn't even thinking about it now at 45 years old. So I was like, great, bone density. I'm like, shit. So after all these years of the heavy, hard training, my bone density is such that I actually weigh more because of my bone density than I did when I had more muscle mass. It's kind of a mind fuck. Like, your clothes fit different. I'm sitting there going, I'm thinking, I can't absorb more air. It's not like I'm carved up. I barely eat any carbohydrates nowadays, right? It can't be, what the fuck is causing that weight? The bone density. And then I stepped back and I said, shit, I made the videos before about the muscular dad bod. What happens when you go off gear and your limbs shrink, and a lot of times your rib cage that's been expanded, and the way that your body changes its skeletal structure to support that mass doesn't really go back. It takes time for that to shrink up too. So what happens is, at first, your body kind of shrinks up and you're built like a barrel with thinner arms and thinner legs, right? You're still in good shape. You're still muscular, like a lot of the retired bodybuilders. But give those guys 10 years of being off the gear and not training like they used to, and even their skeletal structure starts to shrink down. You start to see them looking like frail older people. Like even Lou Ferrigno now has the smaller skeleton, the smaller skeletal structure than he had, 10, 15 years ago, because he's not training like he was. He's getting a little bit older. Obviously, he's not taking the gear and stuff like he was. So I've noticed that, and I've said, okay, I don't ever want to be that. I want to be jacked for the rest of my life, right? So I was trying to figure out a way around it, to be totally honest with you. And that's where I found all the stuff that I'm talking about right now. So as that, that muscular dad bod, kind of the retired bodybuilder body kind of get in my head, I realized that some of these guys also, they weigh more, again, as their body's shrinking. So it wasn't just a phenomenon that was with me. I was like, I'd look at people and be like, oh, what do you weigh? And you're like, oh, 230. And I'm like, dude looks like he's 100, maybe 200, 190, 200 pounds. Why the fuck is he 230? Right? And you look at him and you go, the muscle mass is just not there. How the fuck? The bone density. Now here's what's interesting. Something that a lot of us don't think about right now, especially if you're younger. You don't think about it. You're not focused on it. You really don't care about it. It doesn't really fucking matter. But it's happening. As a byproduct of living this lifestyle and training heavy and training hard, the longer you do that, it's going to build up bone density. And the more muscle mass you carry, the more bone density you're going to have. So even when that muscle mass starts to come down and you start to reduce that muscle mass, right? Meaning, for me, it was a matter of getting off the drugs and not eating as much food for me to get that muscle mass to come down. Well, I'm still training with weights. Now, although I don't train as heavy, it's that I can't train that heavy. It's that I choose not to because I know I'm going to get hurt. Like, my body's letting me know, my muscular system, my tendons, it's letting me know, like, look, your time has passed with this shit. But there are days where I go in the gym and all of a sudden I start pushing a little bit and it's like I can lift sometimes twice the weight that I was lifting the week before and I can still do it fairly easy. Like, my body's capable of doing it. So by continuing to train with weights, it continues to keep my bone density up. Training with heavier weights, and by heavy is all relative now. I consider heavy, back in the day, I would consider heavy what most of you would consider heavy now, right? Something that you see competitive bodybuilders using. For me now, heavy, like I'll do lateral raises with 40-pound dumbbells, I don't even bench anymore. I do a lot of the machines and stuff with 1 or 2 plates on it, right? Which is not heavy for bodybuilders, right? But it's heavy for the average person that can't even do 25 pounds on it, right? So technically, as far as fitness, as far as aging, as far as longevity, you get a big jump start by doing this stuff, not even knowing it. And again, this is something that many of you may not even give a shit about right now, but I promise, I'm telling you right now, I promise, if you continue to train, you continue to live the lifestyle, you will wind up somewhere where I am right now. I swore up and down I would not wind up here. I was going to fight it tooth and nail. I was going to take steroids till I fucking died. Like, I had all these ideas in my head, and of course, over time, those things change. And some of you older individuals right now that are watching this know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, your mindset changes because at that point you realize hurting myself is not worth what I'm doing, right? Shortening my life is not worth what I'm doing. So how do I start producing a longevity effect as opposed to just an aesthetic effect? And you don't even realize that you're building the tools already to do that. Staying consistent in the gym, eating right, being active, getting enough rest, making sure you get your water in, vitamins and minerals, taking your collagen, all of these things that we are training ourselves to do as a bodybuilder to build ourselves bigger and stronger, to be more competitive at our sports or be an influencer or whatever the fuck whatever you're doing, right? More likely the competitive bodybuilders, because as you continue to do that season after season, you're continuing to build your physique and build a bigger physique and a stronger physique and all these other, longevity things come along with it. But you're building the foundation for longevity while you're doing these things, because eventually that's going to end. Whether we like it or not, it ends. And where are you then? I'll tell you, it's a hard crossroads when you've been trying to build your body for 25 years training a certain way, 31 years total training, and all of a sudden you got to reverse gears and kind of try to maintain without losing, without getting injured at the same time. Well, if you're the type of person who never worked out in your whole life, and your bone density is down, and you go to the doctor and he's like, look, your body's weak, your bone density's weak, your immune system's fucked up, like, you're not healthy. You need to get out there and take care of yourself. Well, what does that mean, take care of yourself? Right? Think about that. Take care of yourself. I'm not saying go be a competitive bodybuilder. I'm saying take care of yourself. What does that mean? It means you should eat right. It means you should take your supplements like vitamins and minerals, right, to make sure you're absorbing them. It means making sure you're hydrated, right, which is important. It means going ahead and doing some kind of exercise, weight training, some kind of weight-bearing exercise, whether it's functional training, weight training, whatever you want to do. Some type of cardiovascular training every day, not for fat loss, but for your heart, immune system. Make sure you get enough rest. Like, that helps with the immune system too. Like, all of these things combined together, right? When you step it down a notch from the competitive bodybuilding aspect of it, created a road for you to live a longer, more healthy life if you can make that adjustment and adapt to it. Like all the blueprints are done, right? The road work is done. The good habits are laid down. You have good exercise habits, good healthy habits at this point that now serve a different purpose. And when you start to see stuff like this, you know, like at 208, I'm way smaller than I was at 205. Now, it was kind of fucking with my head. Not because I want to be bigger, right? Because I couldn't figure out how this was working. I'm like, there's no way, you know, like when I first kind of like figured it out, I was like, there's no fucking way that my body could be that, my bones could be that much more dense than when I was younger. And I thought, shit, when I was growing up, I was active, I played sports and stuff, but I didn't eat well, I didn't rest. I didn't drink any water pretty much. I drank like Coca-Cola, sometimes I drank gallons of milk, shit like that, but I really didn't drink any water to hydrate myself while I was training. I took my Flintstone vitamins when I was a kid, but I didn't really take anything until my teen years when I started bodybuilding. So between, you know, my early adolescence to when I started bodybuilding, so between like 8 to 10 to 14, you know, my body really wasn't nourished properly. My body really wasn't getting the things that it needed to, and therefore my bone density probably wasn't as good. Therefore, I started training with weights. Bone density got a little bit better, right? Carried a little more muscle mass. That more muscle mass really superseded the bone density. I was putting on mass faster than I could create bone density, right? So at some point, my body had to catch up. Let's say the bone density never caught up to the muscle mass. That's okay, because when the muscle mass came off, the bone density was still there. It was a lot higher than when I started when I was younger. So I think starting when I was 14 helped to establish not just good habits with, like I said, with the longevity and the things that we do, but I think it started to create better bone density just from the weight training. It did make me a better athlete. It did make me overall a lot healthier. Like I didn't get sick as much, etc. When I did get sick, I recovered really quickly. Like I think it was a really good idea when I was that young to start. But now it's all coming full circle, because now you're at the point where you want to be healthy. You don't want to be sick. Like when you get sick at 45, it's not the same way as when you're 20. It hits you a lot harder. You feel like shit. It's awful, right? And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I would do anything not to be sick right now. I would do anything not to have the flu. I would do anything not to have this virus. I would do anything. I would pay any amount of money not to feel like this right now. But will you exercise? Will you eat right? Will you take your vitamins? Will you drink your water? Will you get your rest? Will you do those things? Like they seem like basic, easy things to do. It's not like we're asking you to give $1 million when you're sick to get the antidote. The antidote is taking care of yourself. But the problem is people don't know how to take care of themselves. They don't know what that actually means. So hopefully today, this video helps you guys understand a little bit about taking care of yourselves. And let's be real. These things that we do that I just mentioned, you know, like the weight training, the water, or the food, all of that stuff, it works in many different ways. And what we use it for now is going to be different from what we use it for later. Now, I'm interested to see as my body progresses when I'm getting older, even older, how much bone density I can maintain, how much muscle mass I can maintain. Eventually, it's going to get to a point, obviously, where it goes backwards, because it does for everybody. You know, Father Time is undefeated. Nobody makes it out of this alive, bottom line. But how long can you keep Father Time away? That's the question. We see people do it all the time. And I'm just curious as to how, you know, the new bodybuilding lifestyle, which is longevity, will compare to the old bodybuilding lifestyle. It's very strange changing chapters and creating a new life like that. But it's one that happens to all of us. And I'm, you know, accepting it with open arms. I'm greeting it with open arms. And I'm at the point now where I just realize, you know what, all of this wasn't just for vain reasons. You know, when I was doing it, it was for vain reasons. When I was doing it, it was because I wanted to be a bodybuilder. I wanted to have a physique. I wanted to be in the magazines. I wanted people to take pictures of me. I wanted all the shit that comes with it, right? But now, all of the stuff that I'm doing now, which is similar to what I did before, it's the opposite. It makes me feel better, and it keeps me healthier. So it actually has a productive value to it now as opposed to when I was younger, which is another whole interesting thing. So on that note, guys, remember, what you're doing now sets the stage for what happens in the future. And good habits now keep you on track in the future. BioStrength@gmail.com. Leave comments down below. But so FightBioStrength.com is the blog. It's the Future Proofs Past Bicep. And we are out.